All right, this is your warm-up. I'll go back a question. These are 3 questions. The first one's from 8.1 on one-step algebraic equations, and the other 2 are from 8.2 on two-step, both solving different ways. So the first question says, what is negative 1/3 x is equal to 2/5? What is the value of x? So this is a coefficient, and it's a multiplier to x. So we're actually multiplying the value of x by negative 1/3. So if I divide both sides by negative 1/3, I'm going to create opposite operation to isolate for x. But if I divide the left by negative 1/3, I have to divide the right by negative 1/3. And when I do so, I have to have my fraction sense kick in, that I have to multiply by the reciprocal, which is going to give me negative 6/5, which is equal to negative 1 and 1/5, and therefore x is equal to negative 1 and 1/5. The second question gives you negative 1/3 x plus a 6 this time. So now we have a constant. It's equal to negative 11/12. And it says use multiplying by a common multiple as the strategy for solving it. And it also gives you a hint that says that negative 1/3 x can be written as this, because if you think about negative 1/3 x, it's multiplying it by x over 1, or x. And if I multiply the numerators, negative 1 times x would be negative x. If I multiply the denominator, 3 times 1 is 3. I would see that negative 1/3 multiplied by x, or coefficient of x, can also be written this way. And the reason why it's important to kind of write that is because if I'm going to use the common multiple method and multiply both sides by a common multiple, it's going to be easier once I do my cross reduction. So what is the first multiple that 3, 6, and 12 share? If I was to write them out, we would find that the first multiple they do share is 12. So because of that, we can multiply both sides by 12. And again, algebraically speaking, if I was to increase the weight of this side by 12, and I was still to increase the weight of that entire side by 12, it would maintain equality. But because this side here has 2 terms, I must make sure that everything on this side is multiplied by 12. So I'm going to write down 12 as a fraction, being 12 over 1, multiplied by that first expression, or that first term, negative x over 3. I'm going to write 12 over 1 multiplied by the second term, which is 1/6. And I'm going to write this one multiplied by 12 over 1. I'm going to simplify all 3 of the parts. And when I do so, each side of the equation will be 12 times larger, but still equal. Cross reduce 12 over 3 to become 4 over 1. I now have, I'll write it over here, 4 over 1 multiplied by negative x over 3, or sorry, negative x over 1. When I multiply the numerators, 4 times negative x is going to be negative 4x over 1, which is not going to be written. So I'm going to end up with negative 4x. Here, when I cross reduce, I'm going to get 2 times 1, which is positive 2, which is going to be a plus 2. Then my equal sign. And then when I cross reduce here, I'm going to get 1 over 1. I'm simply going to get negative 11. So by multiplying both sides by the common multiple, I've created an equation that's 12 times larger on both sides, but no longer has fractions, which for some people is a relief because their fraction sense is not great. And that makes it much easier to isolate the variable, because procedurally, it's just a grade 8 version of a question. So now we have negative 4x equals 13. Divide both sides by negative 4, and x will equal a positive 13 quarters, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, which is going to be equal to 3 1/4. Positive 3 1/4. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And the same question again, except this time it says use the constant coefficient relationship. So for this one, I'm going to get rid of my constant first. And of course, it's very important that you know what the constant is. And it's that plus minus value on the side of the variable that is not attached to it, or not a part of the coefficient. So in order to get rid of a positive 1/6, I'm going to subtract a 6 from both sides. Negative 1/3 x is equal to common denominator of 12, 2/12 Very important when we study chapter 2 in our book on rational numbers that you write down negative 11, take away a positive 2 over 12, because I'm going to keep, flip, and change that to negative 2 to realize that the answer is going to be negative 13 twelfths. Okay, so negative 11 twelfths take away 1/6 is negative 13 twelfths. I'm not going to change it back to mixed yet. I'm only going to do that in my final answer. Because now, just like we did in the first question, I'm going to divide by negative 1/3 to get rid of the multiply by 1/3. And over here, I'm going to divide by negative 1/3. By doing that on the left, I'm left with x. And over here, I'm going to change to multiplication by the reciprocal. Notice I'm keeping my negative signs in these operations always in the numerator. It works well, so I just do it. If you can, cross-reduce. You don't have to cross-reduce. I always do, but negative 3 over 12 will reduce by a factor of 3, giving you negative 1 over 4. When you multiply the numerators, negative 13 times negative 1 is 13. 4 times 1 is 4, which will leave you with the same answer as the last question, 3 1/4.